Hi, it's Mitch from PickDawgz.com, and it's Friday, June 28th, 2024, here with your first 5 inning picks for today. Of course, in this show, as we roll on later on in the year, we'll be doing first halves again as well. But for now, it's just Major League Baseball in the dog days of summer. We got about a month of this left to go before NFL preseason starts. But of course, we also do Today in Sports History. And Today in Sports History in 1992, it was the first exhibition game for the Dream Team. They slaughtered Cuba. The final score, let me see, it was 133-57. So, well, we all know Dream Team, the best basketball team ever assembled. But of course, we're going to see if we can put together the best bunch of picks ever assembled, and we're going to get it done in quick order as we beat the books up in the first 5 innings of today's games. For our first game, we head to Philly, where the Phillies are taking on the Marlins. It was the Marlins snagging the big upset win on Thursday against the Phillies. And today, the Phillies go with Chris Sanchez on the bump up against Kyle Tyler for the Marlins. A little bit of a tongue twister there. He's got a 4.50 ERA this season, and he's only pitched one time so far. Meanwhile, Sanchez, 2.67 ERA, dropping down to 2.50 over his last 3 starts. But oddly enough, the Marlins are pounding left-handed pitching over their last 10 games, hitting 258. Of course, the Phillies hitting righties and lefties, hitting 317 versus right-handed pitching. I expect them to hit Tyler pretty hard in this game. You know, the Marlins, I don't think they're going away anytime soon, though, and I think, you know, what we saw in Thursday's game, certainly not an aberration. This is a team that made the playoffs last year. I'll tell you what, we'll take the Marlins plus a 1.5 to start off today's picks. For our next game, we head to Tampa Bay, where the Rays are taking on the Nationals. The Nationals have been terrible when they've played against the Rays in recent years, 3-8 in the last 11 meetings of these two teams. It's Zach Eflin on the bump for the Rays. It's Mitchell Parker on the mound for the Nats. Parker has been a pleasant surprise with a 3.30 ERA on the season, 2.70 over his last 3 starts, while Eflin, 4.20 on the season, 4.42 in his last 3 starts. But the Rays are starting to put it together, and we kind of see this every single year from these guys. Just a game under 500 coming into this one. They are starting to get bat to ball and, not making any mistakes in the field. The Rays hitting 265 as a team over their last 10 games, and versus left-handed pitching, the Rays hitting 300, while the Nats hitting just 245 versus righties. Boy, I like the way Parker has pitched. Just tough to go against the Rays in this spot. Going to take the Rays in the first 5. For our next game, we head to Baltimore, where the Orioles are taking on the Rangers for Game 2 of their series. Of course, it was the Rangers beating up the Orioles in the playoffs last year. It was the Orioles pounding the Rangers on Thursday in a game where kind of the scoreboard really didn't tell the whole story. Yes, the Orioles put runs on the board. Yeah, they put hits together, but the Rangers had runners all over the base paths, and when they didn't convert early, it was doomsday for them. The Rangers are actually 6-2 in their last 8 games against the Orioles. They go with Mad Max Scherzer making his second start of the season. He went 5 innings in his first one and did not allow a run. We know that's not going to happen with Scherzer because he loves to challenge hitters, and these Orioles, they're going to make contact against him. But Suarez on the mound for the Orioles in regression mode, his ERA almost doubling up over his last 3 starts from 2.70 to 5.14. The Rangers have not been hitting the ball all that well, as we saw, but with the stranded runners, the Orioles are hitting, but I don't care. I like the Rangers' chances against Suarez, and I'm going to take them in the first 5. For our next game, we head to Toronto, where the Blue Jays are taking on the Yankees. And while I've been talking about the demise of the Blue Jays for a while now, boy, they really clobbered the Yankees on Thursday. And the Yankees, well, in a tailspin, but that's the beauty of having the record that they had going into the tailspin. They're still 21 games over 500. I don't think anyone is all that worried yet. It's Marcus Stroman on the bump for the Yankees, former Blue Jay. 3.15 ERA on the season, 3.63 over his last 3 starts, while Kikuchi on the mound here for the Jays, 4 ERA on the season, 7.36 over his last 3 starts. We look at the way the Blue Jays, though, have been hitting right-handed pitching, 236, while the Yankees are hitting below 200 versus righties and lefties over their last 10 games. Really struggling. I know the Yankees bullpen has been terrible, but of course that doesn't really factor in the first 5 innings of this game. I tell you what, I think the Yankees come out swinging, and I'll take my chances with them here. For our next game, we go to Citi Field in New York, where the Mets are taking on the Astros in a battle of 2 of the hottest teams in Major League Baseball right now. Ronel Blanco getting the ball here for the Astros. It is Jose Quintana on the mound for the Mets. Blanco, 2.34 ERA on the season, dips to 0.90 over his last 3 starts. Quintana, 4.58 ERA on the season, down to 2.25 over his last 3 starts. Both these teams absolutely hitting the cover off the ball, with the Mets hitting righties at 319, the Astros hitting lefties at 289. I think the Astros have actually played against a little bit tougher competition, and of course the Astros have absolutely owned the Mets, winning 9 of the last 10 games between these two. But the Mets have been following up wins really well, going 8-2 over their last 10, following up on a win. But, the Astros, I just think, are the better team here. And while Blanco may be a little bit out of favor because of the suspension, the talent is there. I'm going to take the Astros in this one as my first 5 pick. For our next game, we head to Fenway Park, where the Red Sox are taking on the Padres. It's Nick Pivetta on the bump for the Red Sox, Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Padres. Now, this is where it gets really tough around this time of the year. We're at about the middle point of the season for Major League Baseball, and I think, what we're seeing here are just some of these really tough situations. You have a Padres team that clearly is missing, Tatis Jr., so they have that, and Vasquez is pitching, who isn't very good, but you're up against the Red Sox here, who haven't been a very good home team, and Pivetta, who can be hit and miss, and, for most of his career, this is a guy with a 4.5 ERA type, thing, and now you're laying a big price with him in a place where they haven't really played well. So either you take the team that hasn't been played well in recent meetings, the Padres 3-9 in their last 12 against the Red Sox, or you roll and have to pay an exorbitant price, or even think about laying the run line with Nick Pivetta at this price. I don't think so. I'm just going to roll with the over. I think both pitchers get hammered, and that's my pick for the first 5. For our next game, we head to the south side of Chicago, where the White Sox are taking on the Rockies. It's Drew Thorpe on the mound for the White Sox and Dakota Hudson on the mound for the Rockies. Thorpe kind of has turned into everything he was billed to be in all these trades that we've seen him involved in. But, he still is a rookie, so we saw him get hit really hard as well. Which Thorpe will we see today? Not 100% sure, but we do know the Rockies are one of the worst road teams, not just in baseball, but in the history of baseball. 13-50 in their last 63 road games. That is deplorable. We look at Dakota Hudson numbers, 5.63 ERA on the season, 7.20 over his last 3 starts. Of course, we can forgive a little of that as he plays a lot of his games in Coors Field. We look at the way these teams are hitting the baseball. The White Sox just 203 versus righties in their last 10 games, while the Rockies at 245. But I think the White Sox have a little bit of an injection of life, kind of feeling it a little bit. And we saw it against the Braves on Thursday. I like the White Sox first 5 in this one. For our next game, we go to Atlanta, where the Braves are taking on the Pirates. Charlie Morton on the bump for the Braves. It is Martin Perez on the mound for the Pirates. The Pirates have played pretty decently this season. It's tough to take anything away. I know they're a couple games under 500, but really with the team that they have, the youth, and certainly not expected to win this year, pretty solid. Meanwhile, the Braves 9 games above 500, probably lower than where they had hoped to be at this point. But, for the Braves, generally a second half of the season team. The Braves go at Charlie Morton in this one, 4.20 ERA on the season, 5.40 over his last 3 starts. Perez, the lefty, 4.71 ERA in the season, 8.76 over his last 3 starts. The Braves hitting left-handed pitching pretty solidly at 262. The Pirates 242 versus right-handed pitching. This is over their last 10 games. The Braves scored 0 against the White Sox. Not a fluke, but at the same time, I still think they get to Perez. I'm going to take the Braves in the first 5. For For our next game, we go to Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City, where the Royals are taking on the Guardians. It's Alec Marsh on the mound for the Royals. It is Tristan McKenzie on the bump for the Guardians. You know, Tristan McKenzie is a good young talent, but the thing is, he does not look like the same pitcher that he was before he was injured. You have to wonder if this is the McKenzie we're going to see going forward, or if he is still trying to put it together. It's going to be interesting to see the way that it plays out, because the deal with McKenzie is this. If you haven't watched him this season, he still strikes out a lot of batters, but man, is he giving up a lot of home runs. I mean, the most home runs of any starting pitcher in all of baseball. The ball is just sailing out of the park, but the Guardians still winning in his starts, but 7.59 ERA over his last three. Alec Marsh, 5.74. I'll tell you, I don't like the way the Royals are hitting the baseball, but I still believe that we see a lot of baseballs hit hard in this game. I like the over in the Royals Guardians, and that's going to be my pick for the first five. For our next game, we head to Milwaukee, where the Brewers are taking on the Chicago Cubs. It's Jameson Taillon on the mound for the Cubbies, Colin Rea on the mound for the Brewers. We've already seen the Cubs play at Milwaukee this season, and Craig Counsell, the former Brewer manager, was not welcomed with open arms by the Milwaukee crowd. And to be honest with you, I don't expect it to lighten up at all for this particular game. Taillon has pitched pretty well so far this season, a 2.90 ERA, 1.42 over his last three starts. But the thing is that we know Taillon. We've seen Taillon, and we've seen Taillon have these kind of numbers early in the season. We also know that he usually ends up in the mid-fours, so he's got to get there somehow. And on the road in Milwaukee, where the Brewers have been straight money at home, straight money as a favorite, 12-3 in their last 15 games that they've been favored on. And Rea, while he hasn't been perfect, he has been pretty solid for the Brewers. I think he's way solid enough in this one against a Cubs team that is struggling. I'm going to take the Brewers in the first five. For our next game, we head to St. Louis, where the Cardinals are taking on the Reds. Frankie Montas on the bump for the Reds. It's Pallante on the mound for the Cardinals. You know, what we saw on Thursday in the matchup of these games was the Cardinals coming off of a doubleheader and just looked really sluggish. They had bases loaded in the first inning, even though they had surrendered a run and were unable to get anything across the plate. Then the Reds just kept chipping at him, scoring. And by the time the Cardinals hit the board, they were already done. And I think, the Cardinals, maybe having a day, where just one game or whatever might serve them well. Montas has not been very good for the Reds this season. 4.48 ERA, 6.57 over his last three starts. Pallante, 5.23 ERA, 3.95 over his last three starts. The Cardinals' bats have been red hot, even though we did not see it on Thursday, at least not with runners in scoring position, but they certainly still got the runners on base. They're hitting 282 versus righties over their last 10. I'm going to roll with the Cardinals here. For our next game, we head to Anaheim, where the Angels are taking on the Tigers. Zach Plesac on the mound for the Angels. It's Kenta Maeda on the bump for the Tigers. It was all Angels on Thursday, blanking the Tigers in that one. And the Angels absolutely kind of on a little bit of a roll here. I know they're still 12 games below 500, so they're not rolling enough. But the Tigers, this is a team that's pretty disappointing this season. Pretty big expectations coming in. Zach Plesac enters this game for the Angels with an 8.68 ERA, while Kenta Maeda, 6.00 ERA, 5.27 over his last three starts. So both these pitchers have been hit pretty hard, but it's the Angels that are really swinging the bats, at least recently, but just 216 versus right-handed pitching over their last 10 games, but the Tigers at a paltry 199. The Tigers hit left-handed pitching pretty well, but that's not going to help them in this spot. I got to say, going to roll with the hot hand, going to take the Angels in the first five. For our next game, we head to Arizona, where the Diamondbacks are taking on the A's. Slade Cecconi on the mound for the D-backs. It is Sears on the mound for the A's. Cecconi has a 5.74 ERA and 6.00 over his last 3 starts, while Sears 5.04 on the season, 12.66 over his last 3 starts. The A's have had a ton of success against the Diamondbacks, winning 7 of the last 9 meetings of these two teams, but the Diamondbacks this year are certainly playing the better baseball, and what we're seeing is that gravitation towards the 500 mark. They haven't got there yet, but man, they are certainly grinding it. It's like certainly not perfect, but certainly not playing horribly either. The thing is, the D-backs have not hit left-handed pitching, hitting just 194, but the A's just 238 versus righties, kind of uninspiring in its own way. I gotta say, I just think the Diamondbacks are the better team, and sometimes it is that easy. I'll take the D-backs in the first 5. For our next game, we head to Seattle, where the Mariners are taking on the Twins. Logan Gilbert on the bump for the M's. It's Bailey Ober on the mound for the Twins. This is a tough one because I believe Gilbert is clearly the better pitcher here. We had some faith in Ober earlier after he had a bad first outing and then kind of, was rolling for a little bit, and we kind of took advantage because his ERA was affected by that. But the thing is that as of late, well, his pitching hasn't been the best, but he does have 3.15 over his last 3, so we can't write him off totally yet. But Gilbert with a 2.71 ERA on the season, 1.19 over his last 3 starts. The thing is, I love the way the Twins are hitting the baseball. 287 versus righties and 330 versus lefties. Of course, the Mariners aren't hitting the ball at all. 201 versus righties and 209 versus lefties. But the thing is, I think teams hit a little bit better against Bailey Ober. I know the Twins have been able to make up for his inefficiencies, but at the same time, I think it's just a bad spot. I'm going to take the Mariners in the first 5. For our final game of the night, we head to San Francisco, where the Giants are taking on the Dodgers, a good old-fashioned rivalry. These teams hate each other's guts. That goes all the way back to New York when it was the Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Giants. That's how much these teams hate each other. It has been going on for quite a long time. But in this rivalry, it's been the Dodgers that have gotten the best of it, going 25-8 in the last 33 meetings. Logan Webb gets the ball here for the Giants. He has been the guy for them, on top of that rotation. Bulldog really logging the innings. I think he's had some of the most innings of any starting pitcher in baseball, up against Landon Knack here for the Dodgers, who's been exceptional as well. 1.23 ERA over his last 3 starts. The Giants kind of putting it together here. I know they took the loss on Thursday against the Cubs in Imanaga, but the thing is that they came all the way back in a game that looked like they were out of it. The thing is, I know the Dodgers have been solid, for the better part of the season, but where they've struggled has been on the road. I'm going to take a shot with the Giants in the first 5 of this game. And that wraps up today's Major League Baseball first 5 innings picks. Boy, I can't wait till we get at least some NFL preseason first halves. Get ready to roll with those as well. But of course, in the meantime, it is the dog days of summer. Of course, if you're looking for my best bets, the games that I like the best, the ones I'm betting today, as well as best bets from the world's best handicappers, go to PickDawgz.com, click on the Premium Picks tab. I've also got a link in the description. You can use the discount code PICK for 15% off. If you like the hoodie I'm wearing, Nike, hoodie, dry fit, or the hat I'm wearing, or any of the other PickDawgz stuff that we wear, or our new PickDawgz bobbleheads, which maybe I'll show you guys a picture of that as well. I think we have all this stuff under the merch tab, and we also got a link in the description. Once again, this is Mitch. Thanks for joining me. I love doing these videos. They take a little bit of time to put together, but I'll be here every day doing these first 5s and first halves when we're ready for those as well. Make it a winning day. Let's crush the books together.